Okay, let's get into this right here. Well, the basketball world is going crazy. I really don't know what to say about this anymore. You know, we always hear the same shit over and over again. These guys getting picked on. The Wilt Chamberlains, the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, and a lot of times the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars. Okay? We got to say, I would say these guys, to me, they're the greatest players of all time. And why I say this is because, to me, they're the greatest two-way players of all time. There's nobody that can match these guys' two-way play. They just don't have the resume. I guess I could say maybe two-way player, maybe Jerry West will be up there. I guess you could say Jerry West. But as far as these guys right here, the greatest two-way players of all time, you know what I'm saying? To me, it's these guys right here. You just can't match it. You know, with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Wilt Chamberlain, you just can't match it. And that's why a lot of these guys, you know, they got their panties in a bunch. And this is basically who they cut down time and time again because they can't match it, folks. And we've talked about these new era players. They're just offensive players. And to me, they're not even great offensive players, these 2020 guys, because they can travel and carry. And check this out. Although they done cut out real defense in the NBA, they still can't make defensive teams, right? Your Lucas, your Jokers, your Kevin Durant's, your Anthony Edwards, your Jason Tatum's, your Jaylen Brown's, all these guys. I don't care if it's LeBron James at 40 years old. If they cut out defense, right, it should be easier to make defensive teams, right? Easier. It should be harder to make defensive teams. It should be easier for these guys to be making defensive teams, these star players. But they still don't. They still don't, and they haven't. And that, to me, that's an indictment on the NBA. And where we're at with the NBA, is it really the NBA? And like I said, you can go to, you know, days of the past NBA, and again, you could be like, oh, well, Magic didn't never make it. Charles Barkley never made all NBA defensive. But again, you would see, well, who beat them out to make those all NBA defensive teams? That's what I always said. Who beat them out to make it? And you would look on those all NBA defensive teams, and they were either good to great. All time, good to great. Well, I would say and some of them are all time great that made those all defensive teams, right? So, you know, sometimes, like I said, you would have some guys pop up on there that would get on there maybe back in the day, you know, maybe like a Larry Bird, maybe like a Karl Malone. Now, Larry Bird, he was good. He was a good help defender. He wasn't great, and he wasn't all-time great. But, you know, you look at Karl Malone, I think he was in the same boat because he didn't start making all-NBA defensive teams until like later on in his career. But he wasn't a slouch. It was just, you know, a lot of times the guys that was beating him out were all-time greats or greats at that position that was beating Karl Malone out. Now, what I'm trying to say is, when you look at the 2020s and much of the 210s, these guys, the superstars that are getting beat out, they're not getting beat out by, you know, greats or all-time great players at their position. It's just not. It's sad. The only, I don't know, two-way player, maybe Anthony Edwards. I mean, not Anthony Davis. That's about it. I think I'm missing one. I'm saying like the past 10 years. Anthony Davis, maybe Kawhi Leonard when he's healthy. And like I said, again, that's tough because this guy is never healthy. I don't know. To me, that's about it. Joel Embiid, he done made a few all NBA defensive teams. Like I said, he's never healthy. So in essence, these guys really don't have to play no defense. And you have dumb commentators that will tell you dumb stuff like, you know, We done heard it. Oh, Anthony Edwards is a two-way player. Jason Tatum is a two-way player. Like what? You can't even make a defensive team? Wow. Wow. Like I said, this isn't all time, but if you make a defensive second team that year of you playing basketball, you made a second, you were a good defender, right? If you made a second team, if you made the first, you were great. You were one of the best in the league if you made the first, right? Or we could just say how it is, right? You make the first, you were a top 5 defender. If you made the second, you were a top 10 defender in the league. I don't know how to say it any better than that, right? So and that's why I will talk about, and I did talk about the guys I talked about, the Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordans, the Wilt Chamberlains, and the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Look, we know Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played for a long time. Maybe not the vocal leader, the leader, whatever like that some people knock him for. But, I mean, in that 10-year period, I mean, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was, I don't know, the best two-way player in the league. There was no. Remind me in the 70s, who was a better two-way player than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? I don't think there was any better two-way player in the league. He was always up there and scoring blocks. He got a lot of steals for his position, and he put up the points for that 10-year period. Nobody was better than Kareem. Maybe it was. I don't know. You guys got to remind me. But when I look at the numbers, Kareem was putting up monster numbers. And I think it was like first 2-3 years, they didn't even count blocks. I think the man was averaging like 5 blocks a game the first 2 years. Because when they start counting him, he was averaging like 4 and 3.5 and all this stuff. So definitely Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the 70s. Those first 10 years, there was not a better two-way player. It just wasn't. Maybe Dr. J, to me, you don't have the defensive teams to be a two-way player. And, that's why I say you don't have, I don't know what his excuse was for not making these all NBA defensive teams. Maybe, you can slide in the Clyde Drexler, the Charles Barkley excuse, something like that other guys were just beating him out, and probably was at his position. But the problem is, if you're that dude, you're that dude. Ain't nobody gonna beat you out if you're that dude. You're just that dude. Now, we look at Kobe Bryant. I think in '99, if I'm not mistaken, I think he made his first All-NBA second team. And then after that, he continued to be on first, I think, almost every year. And that's it, man. You just can't, I mean, you just can't match what these guys did. And you just can't do. I think you can put Jerry West up there. It just keeps bugging me for me not to put Jerry West up there. It just ain't got nothing to do with winning champ. We're not talking about championships. We're just not. Because once you take out the championships, once you take out the championships like the LeBron James fans want you to do, guess what? You're just stuck with nothing for LeBron James. If we take out, let's all say, oh yes, it's a team sport. Take out the championships, you don't have nothing left for LeBron James for any kind of argument, right? Because you just don't have nothing there for him. He's like I said, he don't do nothing on a high level. He ain't better than Kobe in offense. He ain't better than Kobe in defense. What is there left? Wilt Chamberlain. LeBron James ain't better than Wilt Chamberlain on offense or defense. And a lot of other things. Rebounding. He ain't better than Wilt Chamberlain. What about Michael Jordan? Not better than Michael Jordan in offense or defense. What about, I don't know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? No, offense, defense. It just ain't going to happen. And we can say the same thing with Jerry West. These guys were just, they were the best two-way players of all time. You probably can throw some other guys in there that we can argue down the line, but I'll just stick with these guys right here. I'll just stick with these guys right here. Maybe it's another guy, great guy, that I'm not really there yet with, Look, this is what I'm going to tell you. A lot of guys got cheated out of, when we're talking about the big men of the 90s, oh, a lot of these guys really got cheated out of all NBA defensive teams because you take a guy like, the guys like Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon, I don't know, you could say Shaq to a degree. I won't really put him up there. Alonzo Mourning, who else am I missing? David Robinson. These type of guys like this, look, they were so great at defense, all these guys, that they were getting left off the all NBA defensive team. They were getting left off because it's only 2 teams. I saw this dumb-ish the other day. I didn't even notice this, and I didn't even know this until I was looking at all NBA defensive teams. We might have to do a whole damn video on this. They had, I think it was last year, they had, 4 or 5 centers on the all NBA defensive first teams. I was like, what? You have 5, unless I was seeing shit wrong, it was 5 centers on the all NBA defensive first team. What? Are you kidding me? Y'all gotta stop. And it was last year, I think it was. Nevertheless, these guys got cheated out of defensive teams because, like I said, back then they were positional. So a lot of these guys got cheated out. Now, that brings up another name. And, other names, matter of fact, to be frank, Hakeem Olajuwon. Maybe one of the greatest two-way players of all time. One of the greatest two-way players of all time. You could throw Patrick Ewing up there. You don't think about Patrick Ewing as being, two-way player because he got, David Robinson and Hakeem Olajuwon was always on All-NBA defensive. Talk about David Robinson. Maybe a great two-way player. A great two-way player. Just saying. I'm just saying. Alonzo Mourning, he could get you 20, 10 in like 4 blocks easily. I wouldn't really consider him up there with them. He just, his offensive repertoire wasn't as good. It just wasn't, let's just say, consistent. Because you could have limited moves, but still put up a lot of points like Shaq. He had limited moves. Well, not limited, but, he really couldn't shoot like a Patrick Ewing or Hakeem Olajuwon. He didn't have those kind of, skills. But Shaq did have some moves for not being able to shoot. But Alonzo Mourning, he didn't really possess those type of, skills like that. But like I said, he'd give you a consistent 20, 10 rebounds or more and get you about 3 or 4 blocks. That was great. Now, I don't know. To me, those guys really got cheated out of, a lot of All-NBA defensive teams. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I won't put Moses Malone up there. To me, he didn't put up enough points consistently. Who else am I missing out there? I don't know. I don't know. You guys, maybe they they'll say John Havlicek. You could say that. You could say that. The only thing about him, he really wasn't. I don't know. He was. I would put him in my top two-way players, maybe top 20, 25, something like that. To me, I couldn't put him over those guys that I just mentioned that got cheated out of all NBA defensive teams like Patrick Ewing and Hakeem Olajuwon. Definitely won't put him over. Hakeem Olajuwon is up there in that what top 6. You could even put him top 5 or something if you want to take him out for Jerry West. The thing is, you got to determine that they were both great two-way players, but what you got to determine as because they're kind of even, because Jerry West was better on offense and Hakeem Olajuwon was better on defense. So you got to determine which one you really would take. The offense or the defense. I don't know. I just that's tough for me. For me, Hakeem, he probably could do more as far as, you know what I'm saying, the rebounding and the blocking shots. He could do more. And him being close to the paint, especially back then, the points would be easier to get. So I don't know. You ain't gonna go bad taking either one of those guys. But no. Those are the greatest two-way players to me. Some of them that I mentioned. That's just how it is. I'm trying to think of some more. I think you can say Chris Paul. He's a decent two-way player. He's up there with those type of guys like that. It's just sad, man, because you can't really, mention none of these guys no more. I guess you would have to put Tim Duncan up there. To me he wouldn't be top 5. I don't think he would be top 10, but definitely a two-way player. Who else would be up there? I would have to look. I mean, to me, your two-way players start to go away in the 2000s. That's why I really can't think of any two-way player in those 2000s. I would have to go look it up. I wasn't planning on trying to look this up. But let me see what we got right here. Let me see who was in the 2000s All NBA. We don't even know it. Have to go over the 2020s. They're not going to be there. They're not going to be there. Now Wemby, he has a chance to be up there as long as he keeps his scoring up. Here's some right here. Kevin Garnett, he was a solid two-way player in the 2000s. As we can see right here. So you got guys like, like I said, Kevin Garnett. Who is this? Gary Payton. And some of these aren't, like I said, they couldn't be in the top 10. And some of these guys couldn't be in the top 15. I'm not trying to say Kevin Garnett couldn't be, or Gary Payton, but who else? We're going backwards. So 2002. Like I said, here's Gary Payton on here. There's Tim Duncan. Jason Kidd. No, I won't consider him a two-way player. I can't do that. So they just started to disappear in the 2000s. The only consistent was, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett, and Tim Duncan. Like I said, they just started to disappear in the 2000s. And it's the same guy as you go through the 2000s. Dwayne Wade pops on the team, All NBA defensive, and that's really the only one that really shows up in the 2000s, other than the names like Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan. Those are the only 3. Dwight Howard, I don't know. Like I said, he could be, for that time he had in Orlando. Yes, he could be a two-way player, but if we were doing two-way player lists, he would be all the way down there. He would be deep down there. And then, of course, LeBron James pops up on this list eventually. And we can put him as a two-way player just because he made 6 of them. But it would be like deep down there. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about we would have to go through the 60s and the 70s, the 80s, real guys who were, real two-way players. Not just, good help defenders, making all NBA defensive teams because they were good help defenders. And there's nothing wrong with that neither. But to me, LeBron James never made it. He should have never been on the first team. He shouldn't have. He should have been somewhere where Larry Bird was if you're a good help defender. You shouldn't be on the first team if you're 6'9", the biggest dude stature-wise in the NBA, and you can't even get 100 blocks, homie. No. And like I said, as we start to get into the 210s, the whole thing just falls apart. The only guy that you can, in the 210s as a two-way player, really, is who is this? Kawhi Leonard. And then later on in 210s, Anthony Davis jumps aboard. And I guess you can say to a degree, on a lower level, I guess you can say Paul George and Jimmy Butler. And Chris Paul was always on there. And Kawhi Leonard, he would be up there. I don't know, top. It would be tough, man. Maybe top 25, 30 to 25, something like that. And that's no knock on Kawhi Leonard. I'm just talking about his consistency. Being on the damn court. But if you want to talk about just, Kawhi with his skills, I don't know. I guess you got to put him like easily top 15, top 20 as an all-time great two-way player. But again, his lack of availability is just, it's just ridiculous. So, they did have some two-way players, in that 210s, even though it was falling apart as far as defense. Like I said, you had your Paul Georges, your Kawhi Leonards, Chris Paul. I think I'm missing somebody else. Let me see. Okay, Giannis. I forgot about Giannis. I don't want to leave him out. Drew Holiday would be a two-way player if that dude could, I don't know, lead a team, but I guess not, man. Victor Oladipo made an all-NBA defensive team. That's crazy. Anthony Edwards can't make one. Kevin Durant can't make one. It's just crazy. Al Horford makes an all-NBA defensive team, but none of these goons in the 2020s can make an all-NBA defensive team. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. Danny Green made a second team. Anthony Edwards can't make an all-NBA team. It's let me see something. So SGA never made an all-NBA defensive team? That don't even seem possible. Goodness great. How is that even possible, man? I don't see him on here. I thought he was supposed to be this one of these good defenders. One of these great defenders. I don't see none of these names in the 2020s even showing up. These top 15 players, No, SGA never made an all-NBA defensive team, guys. This is just crazy. It's just head-scratching to sit here. And this is what the NBA is, folks. You got people like Tracy McGrady running his mouth in saying this. Why don't you trash the 2020s? I don't understand why these guys don't trash the weakest era of all time and give them some smoke for, them not being able to push the game forward, for them not able to get the ratings. How come you don't dog out this era right here? Huh? It's crazy. Why don't the commissioner let him dog out this era? Why is the commissioner letting him dog out? And when I say the commissioner, I keep trying to tell you guys, whatever this commissioner wants from his company in the NBA that he runs, that's what's going to be said. That's what's going to be done. So if he says you can't say this, you can't say that, for a lot of these guys that's still working for the NBA and want to be associated with the NBA, they couldn't say certain things, folks. It's not like what you think, that these guys are just saying random things. So, if you take most of these guys, if you want to be associated with the NBA, you can only say certain things, or you couldn't have a job. And a lot of these guys, even if they're not even working in some capacity, as far as ESPN or whatever, TNT, NBC, if they're not working in that capacity, it still don't matter. They're still getting some kind of, health benefits, some kind of, retirement, whatever like this from the NBA. And you can see this with these older players. They're not allowed to bash this new era. They're not allowed to do it. That's why that's why a lot of these ex-NBA players don't come out and say what they should be saying, because it would totally gas this era. They would be finished. It would be over if they really clap back. So these guys in the past, because they're still getting paychecks from the NBA, had to keep their mouths closed. So trust me when I tell you, when you hear players bashing past players like Tracy McGrady, like Gilbert Arenas, this is what the NBA wants. This is what the NBA is cool with, because this era don't have nothing to stand on. The 210s have nothing to stand on. Remember, the 210s is what left the 2020s what they got now. What they got now is that these guys can't even promote their own games. The SGA, the Lucas, the Giannis's, all these guys of the 2020s can't even promote their own game as anything watchable, as anything good, as anything great, because look what the 210s left them. They left them shit. It's the same thing with hip hop. Look what hip hop in the 210s left the 2020s. That's why it's so awful, folks. That's why it's so awful. The 210s didn't carry on the tradition from the 2000s, because the 2000s carried on the tradition from the 90s, and the 90s carried on the tradition from the 80s, and so on and so on. Once you break that tradition of greatness, what are you going to be passing on to the next generation? It ain't nothing to pass on. Now you're going to have to try to start something new, which ain't bad. But if you're following the same tradition that was bad, that that pass it on to you, it ain't nothing good going to come out of it. Okay, you got Tracy McGrady, and you got these fools saying all this dumb stuff, and they're on Gil's Arenas. I mean, look at this guy. He just got took to jail for supposedly he had a brothel in his house, had a sex rink, illegal gambling, things like this. And now he's back on his show, and he's got somebody like Tracy McGrady. And we remember, who was it? Stephen A. Snitch. He was on that show. Well, I think when Gilbert Arenas was locked up, he took over on his show, if I ain't mistaken. It's like, really? Don't. Hey, it's coming. Stephen A. Smith, he gonna get that humiliation ritual. It's coming. It's coming for Stephen A. Smith. These guys want this so bad, they will sell their souls, and then guess what happens? That humiliation ritual will be coming soon. It'll be coming soon. Look what they did with Shannon Sharp. Yep. And they do a lot of this with these homosexual guys like Shannon Sharp. They try to convince you that these guys like Shannon Sharp, they like women. They've been trying to do this with Stephen A. Smith and this Molly thing for a minute. Molly Karam and Stephen A. Smith. Molly Karam don't want no damn old ass feminine Stephen A. Smith. Ain't nothing about it, unless you like gay guys. Ain't nothing heterosexual about Stephen A. Smith. Nothing. Look at the way that this man talked. Look at the way he presents himself. Everything is that of a chattering ass female. Why do you think he's on TV? Because he can chatter like a female. Because everything in his blood, his bones, his persona is like a female. Okay, look at him. Look at the way he talks. That's like a female. Okay. Same thing with Shannon Sharp. He's like a female. Ain't nothing about this dude that's feminine. The way he walked, the way he dressed. Don't get it twisted. This is what I'm going to tell you. It has been a lot of homosexual men in the NFL for a long time. I'm going to tell you that. I can tell you a lot of stories, but you won't believe me. All I can tell you, there has been a lot of homosexual men in the NFL for years. This is going back forever. We're talking about all the way to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and stuff like that. This ain't nothing new. This ain't nothing new. And I'm not trying to say they all are, but it ain't nothing new. Yeah, and then Shannon Sharp, he's back on top after that, humiliation ritual of him liking women, right? It's just so ridiculous. Let me tell you something. No heterosexual man believes that Shannon Sharp likes women. None. You don't do nothing that's heterosexual. Heterosexual men do heterosexual stuff, and you don't do nothing that's heterosexual. As a matter of fact, he probably loves that humiliation ritual. Matter of fact, because they want you to believe that this guy actually likes women. Oh God, this is this new world. And I told you before, this is the new world where these guys give off all this homosexual energy, and they do everything that's homosexual, which again, if you are that doesn't bother me. Cool. But they give off all this, homosexual energy, and then they try to, they try their best, the media, to get you to believe these guys are heterosexual because they have confused the hell out of men in society, how they should act as a heterosexual male. This is what they do. So you carrying purses and wearing leggings and tight this and tight that, and you don't even have the body. Back in the day, if your jeans were tight, it was just that you had big legs. Maybe you had a big rear end and stuff like that, and you look good in jeans. But to actually make tight jeans for guys who have skinny legs and don't have no body like that, to me, that's kind of not heterosexual. And you're walking around in jeans. You don't have the body to be doing that. You know what I'm saying? You just shouldn't be doing it. Nobody wants to see that. You in skinny jeans and you don't have a man body to be doing it. And the NBA isn't finished, man. I don't know what to say. This is it just continues to be like this, man. And I made a video yesterday. They're trying to, this is what's keeping the NBA going. The NBA can't promote itself. It just can't. They don't have the players. They don't have the talent. They don't have the personalities. It's not a American game no more. You don't have coaches no more. You don't have real refs. So you just have dudes in the NBA running amok. That's all you have. And you have old NBA players who did it wrong that's pushing the NBA now. That's all you have. Is it me? Or when I watch the NFL now, the players look like they got smaller. They don't look as big as they used to. Is it me, or just the pads just keep getting smaller? Maybe it's that. But the players look so much smaller now in the NFL. I don't know. Maybe it's me.